Hi, everyone. Harry here in less than ideal conditions at the airport, as you can see, but neither snow nor rain nor sleet nor hail nor dark of night will keep this YouTube from its appointed rounds. Plus, I really wanted to tell you about both Supreme Court cases. I'll do two quick YouTubes today from the San Diego airport. Okay, yesterday's 5-4 per curiam. Roberts for the 5. And all in all, it's that lineup, that monolithic lineup that we have to fear in any big kind of Trump challenge and Trump assertion of outlandish executive authority, especially unreviewable, based on his efforts to say if he says national security, everything has to stop. But, that is not what we got yesterday, and in the most important way, the opinion is good, or at least consistent with the good. And that is because even as they vacated Boasberg's TRO, they made it clear that there is a way, in fact, and there's a constitutional requirement for people to have some review, some notice, and an opportunity to be heard before being swept away secretly in the night, as happened to, say, Abrego Garcia. And that when they do that, they can not only say, I'm not the right guy, I don't belong to that crime group, but they can also say, I'm not the right guy because Trump's interpretation of the statute, the Alien Enemies Act, is all wet, as indeed it seems to me. The core of his interpretation is that the 200, 300, 800, doesn't really matter, members of that group that are dispersed in the United States are not the equivalent of a invasion from a foreign country, which they have to be under the statute. And they'll try to say either that it's the equivalent of an invasion from Venezuela or that they themselves are a foreign invasion. I don't see that flying, and that's what's really important, is that courts review that claim before sending away anybody into the night. What did they do? They did vacate Boasberg's temporary restraining order, which they did not have to do, and they certainly did not have to do on the emergency fashion in which they did it. Both Sotomayor and Jackson and Kagan joined and Barrett joined are very eloquent and forceful in saying, come on, guys, we are letting this get out of hand. You could have certainly let his TRO play out. It was only going to be a few more days. And you could have permitted this to go in the normal course when we get papers and briefs and oral argument and time for consideration and deliberation and comparison of our own draft opinions. Why did you do it this way? But the majority did do it that way. And they issued this per curiam that, in addition to that, was very kind of sterile and seemed indifferent to or ignorant of the really serious, almost existential fact pattern that is at least hovering here. Again, this is not the Abrego Garcia case, but even so, they worry that people are being sent with no due process to a hellhole they'll never get out of. That's some serious stuff. And the court's 4.5-page per curiam, 3.5-page actually, just, in antiseptic fashion said, oh, you have to do this in habeas corpus. And in Boasberg's case, the plaintiffs originally had included habeas corpus, but once Boasberg green-lighted the other kinds of claims, due process, APA, they had dropped those claims. So for them and the ACLU, the attorneys were pretty buoyed yesterday. All they have to do is go back and reassert the claims. But that's only for people going forward. What about people like Abrego Garcia just marooned down there? I think there is an answer, though again, it wasn't what was before the court yesterday, and that answer is you can bring a claim for habeas corpus for someone who's being detained extraterritorially as a result of the allegedly, and here certainly unconstitutional action by the government. You can bring such a claim. It appears to me habeas is super complicated top to bottom. But in D.C., and in any event, I do not think, and this is the other case, I'll give another quick YouTube about it, Abrego Garcia, that the court is going to countenance the sort of ultimate Kafkaesque nightmare of somebody being shipped down there never having gotten due process. So the 5-4 opinion, I don't like the 5-4. I don't like Roberts there. I don't like the tone of it. I don't like they're doing it by emergency. I don't like they're holding that it has to be in habeas. But I really like and would have been totally chagrined had it gone the other way, that the court made clear that going forward and probably backwards as well, that wasn't before them, there is the opportunity for some kind of review in habeas corpus to claim not just that you shouldn't have been swept up, but that the statutory interpretation was wrong, because another kind of holding still remains possible, but I don't think likely. But that'll be about the Abrego Garcia case, which I'll talk about in a minute. Still remains possible, but I think the strong likelihood after yesterday's case is that that can't happen without court review in habeas, to be sure. Therefore, has to be in the district where you're held. You have to be able to get a lawyer there, etc. But there are lawyers out there, and the basic claims should be litigated without just letting them, go unreviewed because Trump says the words national security, as the administration has been asserting and hoping. So that's the basic Supreme Court case. Now the TRO is dissolved. Things go back to Boasberg, perhaps, and the ACLU will be able to restart the claims in habeas, with the question remaining of what to do with some people who are down there unlawfully. I think there's a response to that as well, but not one that was an issue in yesterday's opinion. So that's the skinny on that. More to come, because this will play out now that it's back with Boasberg. And notice also the D.C. Circuit denied to stay Boasberg's orders, as the Supreme Court now has done. But I think the real nightmares that these cases invoke are not, I repeat, not likely to come to pass based on yesterday's opinion. And the problems are somewhat limited, although real. And we're always worried and watching vigilantly for 5-4 opinions with Roberts in the majority. Talk to you later.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.